Swing States is a solitaire game published by Victory Point Games. This game allows you to play the role of the campaign manager for the Republicans or the Democrats in preparation of the upcoming elections, presidential elections that we're going to have this fall. This is a game that has a level of complexity which is higher than what you find in the majority of games by Victory Point Games. This game is close to the State of Siege system engine, but again, in that case, it is still more complex than other States of Siege games that I've seen before, so I want to keep this introduction short to talk as much as I can about gameplay. However, I want to spend a word about components because I know that this has been an issue for potential purchasers of Victory Point Games in the past. Components sometimes have been a big turn off for people. Worry no more. Here the quality of the components is way above what you were used to see in Victory Point Games. The cards are real cards. They look good, they look like cards, they feel like cards, not small rectangles of cardboard anymore. The rule book is a real booklet with glossier paper. The counters are thick, are just sturdy, strong, real counters that is a pleasure to move around and to manipulate. So components are not going to be an issue here anymore, at least I hope so. Let's talk about gameplay now. The game is played using several decks of cards. You have a main deck of cards and you will reveal a card from this deck each turn. That card will determine several events. Usually there are strong chances that the situation on the board will worsen for you. After you resolve that card, you will take your actions trying pretty much to improve your situation after whatever happened here. This deck is made of several cards that have an orange stripe there. Those you use in every single game. Then you have cards with a light brown stripe here. You will use 13 of these cards in each game. 13 out of a deck that has 29. So these are shuffled, then you select them randomly, and then you shuffle them together with the orange ones. And actually, these other ones are not used in the game. That means that in this game, counting cards is not going to work. Basing your strategy on a certain card that you know is coming, not gonna work because there's really no way for you to know which cards are in the main deck and which aren't. Great replay value there, but also an increased luck factor because some of the decks will be harder for you to beat than others, depending on what cards ended up being in the main deck. You have a deck of opposition research cards. From time to time you will be allowed to purchase these cards and sometimes you resolve them immediately. These are usually good things for you. They're positive effects. You are trying to dig out dirt about your opponent. That's pretty much what you do. Some of the cards are October surprises and these cards are not resolved immediately. They're placed at the bottom of the reserve deck. This is a deck of cards with a green stripe here. The majority of these cards will be used during the game when you flip one of these orange cards, and some of these cards are debates, vice presidential or presidential debate cards. When that happens, you do not resolve the debate card immediately. You place it face up on the main deck. You draw 2 cards from the reserve deck and you place them there, and then you resolve them normally. That means that you know that the debate is coming and you have some time to prepare. That gives you a chance to place your presidential nominee marker or your vice presidential nominee in the debate preparation box, which is divided in partial preparation and full preparation. If the nominee that you are sending to the debate stays in there for only one term, then it goes to the partial preparation. And if it stays there for 2 turns, doing nothing else, which is the cost of the commitment, then the marker goes to the full debate preparation. When the debate comes, first you resolve this part of the event card normally. Most cards are indeed like that, and they show you a list of possible locations on the board, and you have symbols determining what happens there. So you resolve this part, and then you roll dice to see how much money you gain from the debate, because this is really what the debate is about, to collect money. And the longer your marker has been in the debate preparation box, the better chances you have to get good money, because you will be allowed to modify the number of dice that you roll in such a way that will increase your odds of getting a lot of money. So that is good, but of course it costs you resources, because you're committing a candidate there. Then you also have another deck of cards, I should say just a bunch of cards that are not used in every game. They are used depending on the type of game that you're playing. And very important and very interesting here, you have the candidate cards, which you use in the candidate game when you decide to run with specific politicians, actually with a specific group of politicians. Each of such cards has two sides, one for the presidential candidate and one with two potential vice presidents. You choose your candidates, president and vice president, and you have your ticket there. In this case, when you play this type of game, the candidate game, these cards will give you limitations and penalties. For example, places in which this candidate or these candidates are not particularly welcome at the beginning of the game, but also advantages. Each candidate has special powers that allows you to do specific things. Each turn starts with a ready phase, during which you will flip your presidential and vice presidential nominee to their ready side in case they're on their used side from the previous turn, and then you can move them to any one of the boxes on top of the columns, or to the campaign HQ where they can execute specific actions, or they can go to the debate preparation if the situation applies. If a marker starts the ready phase on its used side, that is, you used it in a location the previous turn, then it has to move to a new location. Otherwise, if it is still ready, it can stay where it is. After that, it is time for you to flip a card from the main deck, and unless there are special actions, you resolve this type of situation here. You may have symbols here that will move the presidential and vice presidential nominee of the opponent to the indicated regions. In this case, the presidential candidate of the opponent goes to the north, and the vice president goes to the Midwest. Also, we add the scandal marker to the Midwest. Then we have to resolve the situation on this column of symbols here. A yellow triangle pointing down means that the situation may worsen for you in that region. In fact, here you have a map that indicates how the level of approval of your party in each region. The map is divided in 5 regions. There is a reverse side of the map for the Democrats. This is the side that you use when you're playing as the Republican candidate. These states are simply organized in different ways on the two sides of the main display, but the structure is the same. The 5 columns and the states in each column states belonging to each region, and the states are organized in a specific way. At the bottom, you have the states that are more favorable to you, more sympathetic to you and to your cause, more likely to go your way on election night. And then as you move up on the columns, you have states that are less sympathetic to you, therefore harder for you to quote-unquote control and to retain once you gain control of that state. On each column you have a marker that indicates how well you're doing in that region. So the higher the position of the marker, the better things are for you there. These markers have 2 sides. One is a green side, the advertising side. The situation is pretty volatile in that region when the marker is on this side. A marker on the green side means that the situation may worsen easily, but it's also easier for you to improve the situation there. Or the situation may be quote-unquote locked in this state, which means things are more stable, harder for you to lose ground there, but also harder for you to improve your position. In fact, when you're resolving this column of symbols here, you have to attack the region indicated by the symbol. If the region is on its advertising state, or the advertising side, the marker is on the advertising side, then you lose a position in that column automatically. If the marker is on its yellow side, then you can try to defend. Simply put, you roll a die, you apply modifiers, and if your result is higher than the number indicated there, then you retain your position. If you roll equal to or lower than that, you lose ground in that location. The presidential and vice presidential nominees of the opponent have blocking numbers. If you roll a natural number that matches one of these numbers here, then you automatically fail in that region, no matter the modifiers, but at least then you move the marker to the holding box. So these guys are really annoying. They're really trying to block what you're trying to do there. The vice president is good to defend against such attacks. If you have this marker in the location where you're trying to defend, you can use the marker to roll 2 dice instead of 1, and then you choose the result. Pretty good. If your marker in a region goes to the bottom of the column and then you take a result that would force the situation to get worse, then it's a fiasco and it reverberates to the next region. You lower that one instead. Pretty bad if the situation goes really down in the south and you have a fiasco in the south. It reverberates on the border, but the worst part is that the marker on the border goes down by 3 spaces. Otherwise, it would be only 1. If all of your markers are ever at the bottom of the columns, they're all here, then you lose the game immediately. That is how things are going bad for you. Otherwise, you simply play until you resolve all of the main deck and the reserve deck, and then you have an action night in which you count the votes that you receive in each state. There is a number on each state that tells you the number of votes that you receive from that state, and if you have achieved a certain amount, which changes from the Republican to the Democrat, then if you have reached that amount, you win the election, you win the game, otherwise you lose. In any case, back to the main turn. After you resolve the attacks against your regions and your markers and other actions that may come from the main deck, it is time for you to execute actions. You will be allowed to execute actions based on the amount of money that you have available. The cards that attack you also give you a certain amount of money, which you record there. I just have no time whatsoever to talk about the actions that you can perform. Let's just say that you can move your markers, you can use them to flip these markers here from a state to the other, to lock the situation there, or to prepare it to advertise there, or you can try to improve your situation. If you try to improve your situation, you spend money, you roll a die, again you apply all the modifiers, the ones that we saw there. There may also be positive or negative modifiers based on the economy. The scandal marker is a -1 modifier. Once you apply all the modifiers, you have rolled equal to or less than the number on the green marker, then things are bad for you, nothing happens. If you roll more than the green number, then you improve your situation by 1 position in that region. And you can only try to improve your situation in regions that are on the green side. If your presidential nominee is in the region where you're trying to advertise, you flip the guy or the girl to the use side, and then you can roll 2 dice and choose the result. Again, the opponents can block you using their blocking numbers. This is a very tough game. I found it very hard to beat. I must have played around 10 times now, and I won only once. Once as a Democrat and as the as the challenger, not as the incumbent. There are some cards that will have a different value and meaning to you depending on whether you're running with a certain party as the Democrat, yes, and the Republican, but also as the incumbent or as the challenger, or you can also have an election in which there is no incumbent. So actually you can create a situation that simulates the upcoming election, but you can also experiment with different ways in which what would happen if the Democrats were the challengers, for example. If you are the incumbent, of course, anything bad that happens in economy, then it's blamed on you and it's bad for you. And quite the contrary is true. If the present administration is doing poorly, then you're the challenger and that is all gold for you. But overall, it is a very hard game to beat. That at least it was in my experience. I love the fact that the two sides, the two parties play in different ways. As the Democrat, your main goal is to survive until the end of the game. It is very easy to see your markers go down. You have a very weak grasp on the South at the beginning, and if the South starts going down too fast and you have fiascos in the South, then the reverberation of that is devastating. I just lost several games in the early stages as the Democrat because all of my markers were at the bottom of the chart. As the Republican, I found that it is easier to survive until the end of the game to get to the to election night, but then it is hard to win the elections because the Republican needs way more votes than the Democrats do. So for the Republicans, it is not so much a matter of having that, anguish of not being able to survive, the idea that you will be destroyed early in the game, but you really have to do exceedingly well. You really need to take control of some key positions to get to win the game. So either way, it is hard, and I like the fact that it is hard either way, and it is hard in different ways. It gives you different experiences. And actually, one of the things that really shine to me in this design is the amount of possibilities that you have. You can play the game historically, or at least setting up in future history to represent the upcoming election. But you can change things around, and you can have, say, the Democrats as challengers. You can have different types of parties. You can form different tickets, and there are just many politicians that you can combine in different ways, and just the different abilities and limitations that they give you will change your gameplay experience vastly. So this is really a game that I think will remain fresh. This is a game that I really enjoyed. It has the States of Siege feel to it, applied to politics and with many new nuances that I hadn't seen in the system before. So this is a system that I enjoyed and I really like this game. I recommend this game if you like solitaire games that are really challenging, that are really tough, and also if you like the States of Siege engine. Overall, to me, this is a very, very good game.